The rain, a relentless curtain, mirrored the tears streaming down young Isaiah's face as he lay crumpled on the asphalt court. Officer Thorne's cruel laughter, a jagged echo in the night, still rang in his ears, a brand searing his soul. Each shallow breath was a raw, agonizing reminder of the boots that had crushed his ribs, the fists that had turned his face into a grotesque, swollen mask. He wasn't just hurt, he was broken, his spirit bleeding out under the cold, indifferent glare of the streetlights. They had left him there, like discarded trash, assuming he'd slink away, another nameless statistic in their twisted ledger of power. But a flicker of defiance, a burning ember of righteous fury, ignited in the depths of his pain. He would not be erased. He would not be silenced. His trembling hand, slick with blood, reached for the phone in his pocket, a lifeline to a world that seemed impossibly distant. He dialed, the numbers blurring through his tears, each press a desperate plea. He needed his father, a man whose name whispered through the shadows of the city's underbelly, a legend in his own right, known as Wraith. Back at the precinct, Thorne and his partner, Sergeant Cale, reveled in their cruelty, their laughter a sickening symphony of twisted satisfaction. They believed they had taught another lesson, another black kid put in his place. They didn't see the storm brewing, the tempest of vengeance that was about to descend upon them. They didn't hear the faint, desperate ring of Isaiah's phone, the call that would shatter their world. They were blind to the consequences of their actions, deaf to the cries of a community they had sworn to protect, a community that was about to rise. Isaiah, shivering and broken, dragged himself home. Each step a testament to his resilience, a middle finger to the men who tried to extinguish his light. His mother, Sarah, a woman whose spirit was as fierce as her love, screamed when she saw him, the sight of her son's mangled face a dagger to her heart. Her tears mixed with the rain, a torrent of grief and rage. She vowed then and there that justice would be served, that those who had dared to touch her child would pay. The city was about to learn that Isaiah Jackson was not just another face in the crowd. He was a son, a brother, a friend, a beacon of hope in a world that desperately needed it. He was a survivor. And you, watching this story unfold, you are part of this fight. If you feel the burning injustice, if your heart aches for Isaiah, then hit that like button. Let your voice be heard. Subscribe to this channel. Join the movement, because the fight for justice doesn't end here. The truth will be revealed, the guilty will be held accountable, and together we will make them pay. The storm is coming, and it will wash away their lies. The digital needle, a cold, clinical instrument, pierced the fragile veil of their carefully constructed reality, revealing the festering wound beneath. Malik's face, once a portrait of youthful innocence, now a grotesque canvas of bruises and blood, flickered across every screen in Atlanta, then the world. Officer Thorne's smug, self-righteous pronouncements, Sergeant Cale's guttural laughter, once instruments of their power, were now weapons turned against them, amplified and broadcast for all to see. The lie, so meticulously crafted, so confidently delivered, began to unravel, thread by agonizing thread. Aisha's anguished cries, her voice raw with a mother's fury, echoed through the sterile halls of the precinct, a haunting counterpoint to Thorne's practiced denials. The courtroom, once a stage for their calculated charade, became a cauldron of simmering rage, the air thick with unspoken accusations. Each witness, each piece of evidence, was scrutinized under the harsh glare of public scrutiny, their carefully rehearsed narratives crumbling under the weight of Malik's unwavering testimony. Darius, a shadow in the city's underbelly, moved with the precision of a ghost, his grief a cold, hard blade honed to a razor's edge. He wasn't just a father seeking vengeance. He was a force of nature, a storm gathering on the horizon. He moved through the city's veins, through the digital arteries of its communication, leaving trails of truth and exposing the rot that festered within. His hacked feeds, once a whisper in the dark, now roared like a tempest, shaking the foundations of their carefully constructed world. The city, once a silent accomplice, began to stir, its conscience pricked by the stark reality of Malik's suffering. Protests erupted, a tidal wave of righteous anger crashing against the walls of the precinct, the chants of "Justice for Malik" echoing through the streets, a defiant symphony of resistance. Jamal, his eyes haunted by the horrors he had witnessed, stood as a beacon of truth, his voice trembling but unwavering as he recounted the events of that fateful night. His words, stripped bare of fear and pretense, painted a stark portrait of police brutality, of a system designed to crush the very people it was meant to protect. Sarah, her heart a raw, bleeding wound, stood beside him, her grief transformed into a weapon, her voice a clarion call for change. She wasn't just a mother mourning her son's suffering. She was a warrior, her love a shield against the darkness that threatened to consume them all. And Malik, the boy they tried to break, the victim they tried to silence, rose like a phoenix from the ashes of their cruelty. His spirit, once battered and bruised, now burned with an incandescent fire, his voice a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. He wasn't just a victim, he was a survivor, a symbol of hope in a world that desperately needed it. His story, a raw, unfiltered narrative of pain and perseverance, resonated with millions, igniting a spark of revolution that spread like wildfire. Thorn and Kyle, their arrogance shattered, their carefully constructed world crumbling around them, found themselves trapped in a cage of their own making. The city, once their playground, now became their execution chamber, the streets echoing with the chants of a people demanding justice. Their power, once absolute, now evaporated like mist, leaving them exposed and vulnerable. The system, once their shield, now became their judge, its verdict echoing through the halls of justice, guilty. The final act unfolded in a courtroom packed with the ghosts of their victims, their faces a silent indictment of their cruelty. The verdict, a thunderclap of righteous anger, echoed through the city, a resounding declaration that their reign of terror was over. The streets erupted in jubilation, the chants of "Justice for Malik," now a triumphant symphony of victory. But the scars remained, etched deep in the soul of a city forever changed by their brutality. And you, listening to this saga of pain and redemption, your heart heavy with the weight of injustice, your spirit ignited by the flame of resistance, know that this is not just a story. It is a mirror reflecting the harsh realities of our world, a call to arms in the face of oppression. Do not turn away. Do not silence your voice. Do not let their cruelty be in vain. Stand with Malik, with Aisha, with Jamal, with Darius. Stand with the millions who refuse to be silenced. Because the fight for justice is not a spectator sport. It is a battle that demands our participation, our voices, our unwavering commitment to a world where truth prevails and justice reigns. Stay tuned, because the final act of this story is yet to be written. And you, my friends, are the authors. The cold, metallic tang of blood filled Malik's mouth, a stark contrast to the sterile, fluorescent buzz of the juvenile detention cell. Each shallow breath sent shards of pain through his fractured ribs, a symphony of agony conducted by the boots of the guards who had mistaken his silence for weakness. They had come at dawn, not with the measured authority of peacekeepers, but with the gleeful savagery of predators descending upon their prey. Officer Barnes, a hulking figure with a shaved head and eyes like chips of flint, had led the charge, his voice a guttural growl that echoed in the pre-dawn stillness. "Up, Jackson!" he'd barked, his tone devoid of any pretense of humanity. "Time for your lesson!" Malik, still disoriented from the meager hours of fitful sleep he'd managed on the thin, lice-ridden mattress, had tried to rise, his body screaming in protest. A wave of nausea washed over him as his fractured ribs shifted, the pain so intense it threatened to black him out. He'd managed a weak, I need help. His voice barely a whisper, the words swallowed by the oppressive silence of the cell. Barnes had merely smirked, a cruel twist of his lips that sent a shiver of dread down Malik's spine. "Help? You'll get plenty of that," he'd said, his voice dripping with menace. Then, without warning, he'd lashed out, his boot connecting with Malik's already bruised ribs with a sickening thud. The world had exploded in a blinding white agony, the air rushing from Malik's lungs in a strangled gasp. The other guard, a younger man named Miller, his face pale and tight, had joined in, his blows less forceful, but no less brutal. He'd kicked Malik's legs out from under him, sending him crashing to the cold concrete floor. The two guards had then proceeded to pummel him, their boots and fists raining down on his already battered body. Malik had curled into a fetal position, his arms raised in a desperate, futile attempt to shield himself, but they hadn't stopped. Their boots had thudded against his ribs, his back, his head, each impact sending waves of agony through his already shattered frame. He remembered the taunts, the slurs, the hateful words that had accompanied the beating. "Snitch!" they'd spat, their voices thick with contempt. "Think you're better than us, huh?" They didn't see him as a boy, a victim, a human being. They saw him as a symbol, a threat, a stain on their authority. The beating had gone on for what seemed like an eternity. Malik had lost track of time, his consciousness fading in and out, the pain a constant, overwhelming presence. He remembered tasting blood, warm and metallic, filling his mouth, choking him. He remembered the sickening crunch of bone, the searing agony of his ribs breaking. He remembered the darkness closing in, threatening to swallow him whole. When they had finally stopped, leaving him a broken heap on the cold floor, they hadn't offered a word of comfort, a sign of remorse. They had simply turned and walked away, their boots echoing down the empty corridor, leaving Malik alone with his pain and his despair. The other inmates, their eyes hard and unforgiving, offered no solace, their whispers a chorus of condemnation, fueled by the lies that painted him as a snitch, a traitor. He was alone, adrift in a sea of orange jumpsuits, his voice lost in the cacophony of their judgment. At breakfast, a tray of watery oatmeal and stale bread sat untouched in front of him, the meager offering an insult to his ravaged body. Boys glared from across the cafeteria, their whispers sharp with distrust. A wiry kid with a shaved head, his eyes burning with a cold, hard anger, leaned over, hissing, "Heard you sold out your own. You're dead meat." Malik's throat tightened, his good eye darting around the room, but no one met his gaze with anything but hate. He'd never snitched, never even been in a gang, but the lie stuck, isolating him in a sea of orange jumpsuits. He pushed the tray away, hunger gnawing at him, but eating felt impossible with the weight of their stares pressing down. Even the sanctuary of the infirmary offered no reprieve. He had limped there, clutching his side, his breath coming in ragged gasps, hoping for some semblance of medical care, some relief from the agonizing pain. But the nurse, a gaunt woman with pinched lips and a face devoid of any compassion, had barely glanced at him, her eyes cold and indifferent. "Records say you're fine," she'd snapped, flipping through a clipboard that should have shown his fractured ribs and contusions. Malik, his voice raspy and weak, had tried to explain, his words barely audible above the rhythmic beeping of the heart monitors. I was attacked," he'd managed to croak. "I need help. I think my ribs are broken." She had merely scoffed, her lips curling into a sneer. "You kids always got excuses," she'd muttered, scribbling something meaningless on a form. "Sit down or go back to your cell." He had sunk onto a hard plastic bench, the pain radiating through his torso with every shallow breath. He had realized then, with a chilling certainty, that the guards had indeed lost his file, erased his injuries, covered up their crimes. The nurse had tossed him a single aspirin, as if that tiny white pill could possibly alleviate the agony that consumed him. "That's all you get," she'd said, her voice flat and dismissive, before turning away, leaving him to hobble back to his cell, each step a knife twisting in his chest. The days that followed were a blur of pain and humiliation. He was a prisoner in his own body, his fractured ribs making every movement an agony, his bruised and swollen face a constant reminder of the brutality he had endured. He was treated like an animal, herded from his cell to the cafeteria, from the yard to the infirmary, his cries for help ignored, his pleas for justice met with silence. He was a ghost, a shadow flitting through the halls of a system that sought to erase him. His thoughts drifted to his mother, Aisha, her face a beacon of warmth and strength, her voice a soothing balm to his wounded soul. He remembered her fierce love, her unwavering belief in his innocence, her determination to fight for him against the very forces that now held him captive. He remembered her words, "We'll get through this, baby. We always do." But the memory was a cruel torment, a reminder of the chasm that separated them, the vast, impenetrable wall of injustice that threatened to swallow him whole. He remembered the last time he had seen her, her eyes filled with a desperate, heartbreaking fear as the police dragged him away, her voice a fading echo in the sterile, echoing halls of the juvenile detention center. He remembered her touch, the gentle way she would stroke his hair when he was sick, the firm grip of her hand as she guided him through the crowded streets. He remembered her laughter, the sound of her voice singing along to the old soul records she loved, the way her eyes would light up when he told her about his dreams. All these memories, once a source of comfort, were now a source of unbearable pain, a constant reminder of everything he had lost. He thought of his father, Darius, a man whose name was whispered with a mix of awe and fear, a legend in the shadows, a force of nature capable of moving mountains. He remembered the stories Aisha had told him, tales of his father's unwavering resolve, his fierce loyalty, his unwavering commitment to justice. He clung to those stories, to the hope that his father would come for him, that he would tear down the walls that held him captive, that he would silence the voices that sought to bury him. He imagined his father's strong arms, the way he would lift him up and spin him around, the sound of his deep, rumbling laughter. He imagined his father's steady gaze, the way his eyes would sparkle with pride when Malik made a good play on the basketball court, the way they would soften with tenderness when he told him about his hopes and fears. He imagined his father's voice, the calm, reassuring tone that always made him feel safe, the firm, unwavering conviction that always made him feel strong. But even that hope was a fragile thing, a flickering candle in the encroaching darkness. He was alone, abandoned, his voice a whisper in the wind, his fate hanging in the balance. He was a pawn in a game he didn't understand, a sacrifice to a system that thrived on his pain. He was a boy, stripped of his innocence, his dreams shattered, his spirit broken. He was a victim, a statistic, a casualty of a war he never chose to fight. Days bled into nights, each moment an eternity of suffering. He was a ghost, a shadow flitting through the halls of a system that sought to erase him. He was a body, broken and battered, his spirit slowly fading under the weight of their cruelty. He was a voice, silenced and ignored, his cries for justice lost in the echoing silence of their indifference. He was a boy, stripped of his humanity, his dignity, his very existence reduced to a number, a file, a footnote in their twisted narrative. He remembered his dreams, the ones they tried to steal from him. He remembered the feel of the basketball in his hands, the swish of the net, the roar of the crowd. He remembered the equations that danced in his mind, the intricate patterns that held the secrets of the universe. He remembered the laughter of his friends, the warmth of his mother's embrace, the unwavering belief of his father. He remembered the boy he used to be, the boy they tried to destroy. He remembered his first slam dunk, the way the crowd had erupted in cheers, the feeling of pure exhilaration as he soared through the air. He remembered the science fair, the way his project, a miniature solar-powered car, had won first place, the pride in his mother's eyes as she pinned the medal on his chest. He remembered the late-night talks with his friends, the dreams they shared, the plans they made for the future. All these memories, once a source of joy and hope, were now a source of unbearable pain, a constant reminder of everything that had been taken from him. He closed his eyes, his breath ragged, his body trembling. He was tired, so tired, tired of the pain, tired of the fear, tired of the constant gnawing ache of injustice. He was a boy, broken and defeated, his spirit finally surrendering to the darkness that threatened to consume him. He was a victim, a sacrifice, a casualty of their cruelty. He was a ghost, fading into the shadows, his voice a whisper lost in the wind. But even as his spirit faltered, a flicker of defiance remained, a stubborn ember of hope that refused to be extinguished. He was not just a victim, not just a statistic, not just a ghost. He was Malik Jackson, son of Aisha, son of Darius, a boy who refused to be erased. He was a survivor, a fighter, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. And even in the depths of his despair, he knew that his story was not over, that his voice would not be silenced, that his fight would not be in vain. Because even in the darkest of nights, a single spark of hope could ignite a fire that would burn brighter than their hate, a fire that would illuminate the darkness and expose the truth, a fire that would set him free. He was Malik Jackson, and he would not be broken. Even as the icy grip of despair threatened to drag him under, a defiant spark flickered within Malik, a stubborn ember of hope that refused to be extinguished. He was not just a victim, not just a statistic, not just a ghost. He was Malik Jackson, son of Aisha, son of Darius, a boy who refused to be erased. He was a survivor, a fighter, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. And even in the depths of his despair, he knew that his story was not over, that his voice would not be silenced, that his fight would not be in vain. Because even in the darkest of nights, a single spark of hope could ignite a fire that would burn brighter than their hate. A fire that would illuminate the darkness and expose the truth. A fire that would set him free. He remembered his mother's unwavering belief in him. Even as the world seemed to crumble around them, she had held him close, her embrace a shield against the storm. He remembered the countless nights she had stayed up late, helping him with his homework, her voice a soothing melody in the quiet of their small apartment. He remembered the sacrifices she had made, working tirelessly to provide for him, her love a constant, unwavering presence in his life. And he remembered her final words, whispered through tears as they dragged him away. "Be strong, my son. Never give up." Those words, a sacred vow, echoed in the lonely silence of his cell, fueling his determination to survive. He thought of his father, a legend whispered in hushed tones, a force of nature capable of moving mountains. Though he had never known him, Malik carried his spirit within him, a legacy of courage and resilience. He imagined his father's unwavering gaze, the strength in his hands, the unwavering commitment to justice that burned in his heart. He clung to the stories his mother had told him, tales of daring rescues and impossible victories, finding solace in the knowledge that he came from a lineage of warriors. And in his darkest moments, he would whisper his father's name, a silent prayer for strength and guidance. But it wasn't just the memory of his parents that kept him going. It was the faces of his friends, their laughter echoing in his mind, their dreams intertwined with his own. He remembered Jamal, his best friend since kindergarten, his partner in countless basketball games, his confidant in times of trouble. He remembered Sarah, the girl with the infectious smile and the fiery spirit, who had always challenged him to be his best. He remembered the countless hours they had spent together, sharing secrets, chasing dreams, building a future filled with hope and promise. And he knew, with a chilling certainty, that he could not let their memories be in vain. He had to survive, not just for himself, but for them, for the future they had all envisioned together. Yet survival came at a cost. Each day in that hellhole chipped away at his spirit, testing the limits of his endurance. The guards, emboldened by their impunity, subjected him to increasingly brutal treatment. They denied him food, leaving him weak and emaciated. They deprived him of sleep, leaving him teetering on the brink of madness. They subjected him to humiliating searches, their hands ku-bao chin-ru his violated body, leaving him feeling stripped of his dignity. And they filled his ears with a constant barrage of taunts and threats, their words like venomous arrows piercing his already wounded soul. He was losing track of time, the days and nights blurring into an endless cycle of pain and suffering. His body, once strong and vibrant, was now a gaunt and trembling shell. His mind, once sharp and focused, was now clouded with confusion and despair. He was a shadow of his former self, a broken boy teetering on the edge of oblivion. And then the nightmares began. They came in the dead of night, vivid and terrifying, replaying the horrors he had endured. He saw Officer Barnes's cruel smile, heard the sickening crunch of his ribs breaking, felt the searing pain of the guard's boots against his flesh. He relived his mother's anguished cries, saw her face contorted with fear as they dragged him away. And he saw his own reflection, a broken, defeated boy, his eyes devoid of hope. He would wake up screaming, his body drenched in sweat, his heart pounding in his chest. But there was no comfort to be found in the cold, sterile reality of his cell. The nightmares lingered, haunting his waking hours, blurring the line between reality and illusion. He began to question his sanity, wondering if he was losing his grip on reality. In his darkest moments, he longed for release, for the sweet oblivion of death. But even then, a tiny voice within him whispered, "No, don't give up. You have to keep fighting." And it was that voice, that stubborn ember of hope, that kept him alive. He clung to the memory of his mother's love, the image of his father's strength, the faces of his friends. He remembered their laughter, their dreams, their unwavering belief in him. And he knew that he could not betray them by giving up. He had to survive. He had to endure. He had to rise, and he needed you. Yes, you, the one reading this, the one feeling the sting of injustice, the one whose heart aches for his suffering. He needed your support, He needed your voice to join the chorus of those demanding change. He needed your compassion to fuel the fight against this kind of brutality. Perhaps you have never been in a situation like Malik's. Perhaps you have never experienced the crushing weight of systemic oppression. Perhaps you have never felt the cold hand of injustice on your own skin. But you have a heart. You have a conscience. And you have the power to make a difference. So please take a moment. Close your eyes. Imagine yourself in Malik's place. Feel his pain, his fear, his despair. And then open your eyes and ask yourself, what can I do to help? The answer is simple. You can be his voice. You can be his advocate. You can be his ally in the fight for justice. Click that like button. Share his story. Let the world know that Malik Jackson is not just another victim. He is a symbol of hope, a beacon of courage, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit can endure. Write to your elected officials. Demand an end to police brutality. Demand accountability for those who abuse their power. Demand justice for Malik and for all the victims of this broken system. Support organizations that are fighting for change. Donate your time, your money, your resources. Every little bit helps. Educate yourself and others about the realities of systemic racism and police brutality. Start conversations. Challenge prejudices. Break down the walls of ignorance and indifference, and never, ever give up hope. Because as long as there is breath in our bodies, as long as there is a spark of compassion in our hearts, the fight for justice will continue, and together we can create a world where all are treated with dignity and respect, where all are safe from violence and oppression, where the dream of equality finally becomes a reality. Malik Jackson is waiting for you. The world is waiting for you. The future is waiting for you. What will you do? Even as the icy grip of despair threatened to drag him under, a defiant spark flickered within Malik, a stubborn ember of hope that refused to be extinguished. He was not just a victim, not just a statistic, not just a ghost. He was Malik Jackson, son of Aisha, son of Darius, a boy who refused to be erased. He was a survivor, a fighter, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. And even in the depths of his despair, he knew that his story was not over, that his voice would not be silenced, that his fight would not be in vain, because even in the darkest of nights, a single spark of hope could ignite a fire that would burn brighter than their hate, a fire that would illuminate the darkness and expose the truth, a fire that would set him free. Listen closely, and you can almost hear the echoes of his mother's voice, a soothing balm against the harsh reality of his confinement. Remember Aisha, her unwavering belief in her son, a belief that transcended the cold, unyielding bars of his prison. Picture her face, etched with worry, yet radiating a fierce, protective love that not even those brutal hands could extinguish. Feel the warmth of her embrace, the gentle strength of her hands as she guided him through life, shielding him from the darkness that now threatens to consume him. And hear her final words, a mother's desperate plea, a warrior's battle cry. Be strong, my son. Never give up. Those words, whispered through tears, a sacred vow etched into his heart, became his mantra, his lifeline in the suffocating silence of his cell. And what of his father? The legendary Darius. Though a phantom, a whisper in the wind, his spirit coursed through Malik's veins, a legacy of courage and defiance. Imagine the stories Aisha told him, tales of daring rescues and unwavering justice, not as boastful pronouncements, but as lessons in integrity, in standing up for what is right, no matter the cost. Feel the weight of that legacy, the responsibility to honor the blood that flowed through his veins, a blood that refused to be broken, refused to be silenced. In his darkest moments, Malik would conjure his father's image, a towering figure of strength and resolve, a silent guardian watching over him, infusing him with the courage to face another day. But beyond the echoes of his parents, there were the vibrant memories of a life stolen, a future denied. Remember Jamal, his brother in arms since kindergarten, their laughter echoing across dusty basketball courts, their dreams intertwined like the branches of a mighty oak. Picture them, side by side, facing down every challenge life threw their way, their bond unbreakable, their loyalty unwavering. Remember Sarah, her infectious smile a beacon of light in his often turbulent world, her fiery spirit a constant challenge to be better, to reach higher. Feel the warmth of their camaraderie, the shared dreams, the unspoken understanding that transcended words. And imagine Malik, alone in his cell, clinging to those memories, the vibrant tapestry of his past, a stark contrast to the bleakness of his present, fueling his desperate yearning for a future that might never come. Yet, survival came at a cost, a price paid in blood, in bone, in spirit. With each passing day, the guards, those self-proclaimed arbiters of justice, chipped away at his humanity, their cruelty a relentless tide threatening to drown him in despair. Remember the gnawing hunger, the cold emptiness in his stomach, a constant reminder of his deprivation. Feel the bone-deep weariness, the desperate longing for sleep, for respite from the torment that haunted his waking hours. Imagine the humiliation, the violation of his body, his dignity stripped away, leaving him raw and exposed, a prisoner not just of his cell, but of their twisted desires. And hear the venomous words, the taunts and threats that echoed in the suffocating silence, each syllable a dagger twisting in his already wounded soul. Time, once a steady current, became a swirling vortex, each day a repetition of agony, each night a descent into the abyss. Into his body, once a vessel of strength and agility, became a gaunt and trembling cage, his movements slow and labored, each breath a reminder of his broken ribs. His mind, once sharp and focused, became a battleground of confusion and despair, his thoughts fragmented, his memories distorted. He was a shadow of his former self, a broken boy teetering on the precipice of oblivion. The vibrant colors of his life, his dreams, his hopes, his very essence, were fading, replaced by the monochrome grayness of his confinement. And then, the nightmares came, those nocturnal demons that preyed on his vulnerability, replaying the horrors he endured, amplifying his pain, and shattering his already fragile sanity. Imagine reliving that brutal beating, the sickening crunch of bone, the searing agony of flesh against metal, the triumphant snarls of his tormentors. Picture his mother's face, contorted with terror as they dragged him away, her desperate cries echoing in the sterile halls of injustice. And see his own reflection, a broken, defeated boy, his eyes hollowed with despair, his spirit crushed beneath the weight of their cruelty. He would wake up screaming, his body slick with sweat, his heart pounding like a drum against his ribs, the phantom pain a constant reminder of his suffering. The line between reality and illusion blurred, leaving him trapped in a waking nightmare where the horrors of his confinement were amplified and distorted, threatening to consume him entirely. In those moments of utter darkness, a chilling question echoed in his mind. Was he losing himself? Was he slipping into the abyss of madness, his sanity a casualty of their brutality? The isolation, the pain, the constant fear were a relentless assault on his mind, threatening to shatter his very being. Yet, even as the darkness closed in, a tiny voice, a stubborn ember of hope, whispered from the depths of his soul. "No, don't give up. You have to keep fighting." That voice, the echo of his mother's love, the phantom strength of his father, the memory of his friend's unwavering belief, became his lifeline, his reason to endure. He clung to those memories, those fragments of a life worth fighting for, as a drowning man clings to a piece of driftwood. He remembered the warmth of his mother's smile, the strength of his father's gaze, the sound of his friend's laughter. They were his anchors, his guiding stars, his reason to keep breathing, to keep hoping, to keep fighting. And now he needs you. Yes, you, the one reading this, the one feeling the sting of injustice, the one whose heart aches for his suffering. He needs your support. He needs your voice to join the chorus of those demanding change. He needs your compassion to fuel the fight against this kind of brutality. Your empathy, your understanding, your words of encouragement, these are the weapons that can pierce through the darkness and offer a glimmer of hope, a lifeline in his despair. Perhaps you have never been in a situation like Malik's. Perhaps you have never experienced the crushing weight of systemic oppression. Perhaps you have never felt the cold hand of injustice on your own skin. But you have a heart, you have a conscience, and you have the power to make a difference. Your voice, your words, your compassion, these are the tools that can rebuild a broken spirit. So, please, take a moment. Close your eyes. Imagine yourself in Malik's place. Feel his pain, his fear, his despair. Let his story resonate within the depths of your soul. Let it ignite a fire within your heart. And then open your eyes and ask yourself, what can I do to help? What words can I offer to encourage this broken boy? How can I let him know that he is not alone, that his suffering is not in vain? Don't just scroll past. Don't let his story fade into the background noise of your busy life. Reach out. Connect. Let him know that you are listening. Leave a comment. A simple message of support, a few words of encouragement can be a lifeline in the suffocating silence of his cell. Tell him that you believe in him, that you are standing with him, that his fight is not in vain. Let him know that his resilience has touched your heart, that his courage has inspired you, that his story has given you hope. Your words can be a balm to his wounded soul, a beacon of light in his darkest hour, a reminder that he is not forgotten, that he is not alone. Share his story. Spread his message. Let the world know that Malik Jackson is not just another victim. He is a symbol of hope, a beacon of courage, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit can endure. Your voice can amplify his. Your reach can extend his. Your actions can make a difference. Write to your elected officials. Demand an end to police brutality. Demand accountability for those who abuse their power. Demand justice for Malik and for all the victims of this broken system. But also let Malik know that you are fighting for him, that you are demanding justice in his name, that his suffering will not be forgotten. Support organizations that are fighting for change. Donate your time, your money, your resources. Every little bit helps. But also, send a message of support to Malik through these organizations. Let him know that he is not alone, that there is a community of people who care about him, who are working to create a better world for him and for others like him. Educate yourself and others about the realities of systemic racism and police brutality. Start conversations. Challenge prejudices. Break down the walls of ignorance and indifference, but also share Malik's story with others. Use his experience as a tool for education, a catalyst for change, a reminder of the urgent need for justice and compassion. And never, ever give up hope. Because as long as there is breath in our bodies, as long as there is a spark of compassion in our hearts, the fight for justice will continue. And together, we can create a world where all are treated with dignity and respect, where all are safe from violence and oppression, where the dream of equality finally becomes a reality. And in that world, Malik Jackson will not be a victim, but a survivor, a symbol of hope, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. Malik Jackson is waiting for you. Your words, your support, your compassion, they are the lifeline he needs to keep fighting. Reach out to him. Let him know that you are there. Let him know that you care. Let him know that he is not alone. Let your voice be the beacon of hope that guides him through the darkness. Notwithstanding the encroaching despair that threatened to extinguish his remaining hope, Malik Jackson maintained a posture of defiance. It is important to note that this was not merely obstinacy, rather it represented the very core of his being, the culmination of his upbringing and the values instilled by his progenitors. He was not simply a victim, a faceless entity, or a spectral presence within a flawed system. He was Malik Jackson, the son of Aisha and Darius, an individual possessed of a name, a history, and a future that had been unjustly abrogated. He demonstrated the qualities of a survivor and a combatant, exemplifying the resilience of the human spirit, and even in his most profound moments of despondency, an intrinsic conviction persisted that his narrative was not concluded. His voice would not be silenced, and he would persist in his struggle. For it is axiomatic that even within the most tenebrous of circumstances, the most minute vestige of hope has the potential to ignite a conflagration that will ultimately eclipse the forces of malevolence, reveal the verity of the situation, and secure his liberation. Furthermore, it is imperative to acknowledge the enduring influence of his mother's voice, which served as a source of solace amidst the harsh realities of his confinement. Aisha's unwavering belief in her son transcended the physical constraints imposed by his incarceration. One must consider the image of her countenance, marked by concern, yet simultaneously imbued with a fierce and protective love that remained undiminished by the brutality of his captors. The memory of her warm embrace and the strength conveyed by her hands during his formative years provided a sense of guidance, shielding him from the darkness that presently sought to engulf him. Her final pronouncements, a maternal supplication, and a warrior's exhortation, "Be strong, my son. Never relinquish hope," were not mere words. Rather, they constituted a profound declaration etched upon his heart, sustaining him throughout his ordeal. They represented a testament to a mother's unwavering love, an affirmation of her steadfast faith, a source of illumination during his darkest hour, and a paean to the indomitable nature of strength in the face of injustice. Moreover, the legacy of his father, the esteemed Darius, warrants consideration. Although existing primarily as a spectral presence, a whisper carried upon the winds of memory, his spirit permeated Malik's very essence, embodying a heritage of courage and defiance. The narratives recounted by Aisha, detailing acts of daring rescue and an unyielding commitment to justice, were not presented as vainglorious pronouncements. Instead, they served as instructive lessons in the principles of integrity and the necessity of upholding what is morally right, irrespective of the attendant consequences. The weight of this legacy, the responsibility to honor an unyielding lineage, was deeply felt. In his most despairing moments, Malik would invoke the image of his father, a formidable figure embodying strength and unwavering resolve, a silent guardian providing solace and fortitude to confront the exigencies of each new day. He represented the inextinguishable fire within Malik's heart, the unassailable conviction that justice would ultimately prevail, a promise transmitted across the generations. In addition to the profound influence of his progenitors, the memories of a life unjustly curtailed and a future potentially irretrievable provided further impetus. One must not disregard the significance of Jamal, his closest companion since childhood, whose laughter resonated across the familiar terrain of the basketball court, their aspirations inextricably linked. They are to be remembered as inseparable, confronting life's vicissitudes in unison, their bond characterized by an unassailable loyalty. Sarah, with her radiant smile and indomitable spirit, consistently challenged Malik to strive for excellence. The warmth of their shared camaraderie, their mutual aspirations, and their tacit understanding served as a poignant reminder of what had been lost. Malik, in his solitary confinement, sustained himself with these memories, the vibrant tapestry of his past starkly juxtaposed against the bleakness of his present circumstances, thereby intensifying his longing for a future that might never be realized. These memories encapsulated the essence of his existence, his sources of joy, his ambitions, and the totality of his identity. Nevertheless, survival was contingent upon enduring a considerable cost, exacted in both physical and emotional terms. With each passing day, the guards, those who arrogated to themselves the mantle of justice, progressively eroded his humanity, their cruelty manifesting as an overwhelming force that threatened to submerge him in a sea of despair. The relentless hunger, that persistent gnawing void within his abdomen, served as a constant reminder of his deprivation. The profound weariness that permeated his very bones, the desperate yearning for respite from the ceaseless torment that plagued his waking hours, must also be acknowledged. The abject humiliation, the violation of his person that stripped away his dignity, rendering him defenseless and exposed, a prisoner not only of his cell but also of their perverse desires, cannot be overstated. Furthermore, the ceaseless barrage of vituperative pronouncements, the taunts and threats that permeated the oppressive silence, each word a veritable dagger piercing his already wounded spirit, were a deliberate attempt to inflict suffering, akin to vultures circling their prey, or malevolent entities seeking to undermine his very essence. Time, normally perceived as a steady progression, devolved into a chaotic vortex, each day mirroring the agony of its predecessor, each night representing a descent into the infernal regions. His physical form, once characterized by strength and agility, degenerated into a feeble and trembling state. His movements becoming increasingly labored, each respiration serving as a painful reminder of his fractured ribs. His cognitive faculties, formerly acute and focused, were assailed by confusion and despair, his thoughts fragmented, his memories distorted and unreliable. He became a mere shadow of his former self, a broken adolescent teetering precariously on the precipice of oblivion. The vibrant panoply of his life, his aspirations, his hopes, and the very core of his identity were progressively extinguished, supplanted by the monochromatic desolation of his confinement. He was fading, gradually slipping away, assuming the characteristics of a spectral presence, a mere echo of the individual he once was. Moreover, the nocturnal visitations, those malevolent entities that emerged under the cloak of darkness, relentlessly replayed the atrocities perpetrated against him, exacerbating his physical pain and further eroding his already compromised sanity. The reliving of that brutal assault, the sickening crunch of bone, the excruciating pain inflicted by their boots upon his flesh, and the triumphant expressions of his tormentors must be considered. The image of his mother's countenance, contorted with terror as she was forcibly removed, her desperate cries reverberating throughout that cold and heartless institution, further compounded his anguish. The reflection of his own visage, broken and defeated, his eyes devoid of hope, his spirit crushed beneath the weight of their cruelty, served as a constant reminder of his subjugation. He would awaken from these torments, his body drenched in perspiration, his heart pounding erratically, the pain experienced in these nocturnal episodes indistinguishable from the actual physical trauma. The delineation between reality and illusion became increasingly blurred, transforming his waking hours into a perpetual nightmare, wherein the horrors of his confinement were magnified and distorted, threatening to utterly consume him. These nocturnal visitations functioned as instruments of torture, the darkness they engendered serving to devour him, the unremitting pain constituting his own personal inferno. During these nadirs of his existence, a fundamental question arose within his consciousness. Was he experiencing a disintegration of his very being? Was he succumbing to the abyss of insanity, his mental faculties becoming yet another casualty of their brutality? The isolation, the unremitting pain, and the pervasive fear constituted a relentless assault upon his cognitive processes, threatening to shatter the core of his identity. Yet even as the darkness intensified, a faint but persistent voice, an unyielding vestige of hope, resonated from the depths of his soul. Do not surrender. You must persevere in this struggle. This internal exhortation, echoing his mother's unwavering love, his father's indomitable strength, and the unassailable belief of his friends, served as a crucial lifeline in that oppressive darkness, affirming the capacity of the human spirit to endure even the most extreme forms of adversity. That internal voice, reflecting his mother's enduring love, his father's resolute strength, and the steadfast conviction of his friends, became his primary source of sustenance. He tenaciously clung to those memories, those fragments of a life deemed worth preserving, much like a drowning individual grasping for a piece of flotsam. He recalled the warmth of his mother's smile, the resolute nature of his father's gaze, and the sound of his friends' laughter. These recollections served as his anchors, his guiding principles, and his impetus to continue breathing, hoping, and striving for survival. They represented whispers of hope, sources of illumination within the pervasive darkness, the promise of a future worthy of anticipation, and a paean to the enduring power of love and resilience, resonating continuously within the deepest recesses of his consciousness. And at this juncture, he requires assistance. Indeed, the individual presently engaging with this narrative, experiencing a sense of injustice, and whose sensibilities are offended by his suffering, is called upon to provide support. Malik Jackson necessitates a collective voice to advocate for change. He requires compassion to fuel the struggle against this form of brutality. Empathy, understanding, and words of encouragement have the potential to penetrate the darkness and provide a modicum of hope, something tangible to sustain him. The capacity to comprehend his pain, acknowledge his anguish, and recognize the desperation of his struggle is essential to sustaining his will to live. It is conceivable that the reader has not been subjected to circumstances analogous to those experienced by Malik Jackson. It may be the case that the oppressive weight of systemic injustice has not been directly encountered, nor has the cold, harsh reality of injustice been personally felt. Nevertheless, the reader is presumed to possess compassion and a sense of moral rectitude. The capacity to ameliorate his profound suffering and restore his diminished hope resides within. An appeal is therefore made to all who are capable of empathy and possess a sense of justice. Do not dismiss this narrative. Do not allow this account to be subsumed within the cacophony of daily existence. Extend a hand, establish a connection, convey to him that he is not forsaken. Your attention validates his existence, your concern provides solace, and your actions have the potential to instill hope. Expressions of support, even those conveyed through seemingly simple means, can serve as a lifeline within the oppressive silence of his confinement. Convey to him that his inherent worth is acknowledged, that solidarity is offered, and that his struggle resonates with a broader purpose. Communicate the profound impact his resilience has had, the inspiration derived from his courage, and the hope engendered by his narrative. Such expressions have the capacity to heal his wounded spirit, serve as a source of illumination during his darkest hour, and provide a constant reminder that he is neither forgotten nor isolated. These expressions can provide the warmth he desperately craves, the solace he urgently requires, and the fortitude necessary to persevere, a symphony of hope amidst the cacophony of despair. Disseminate his narrative, propagate his message. Ensure that the world at large is apprised of the circumstances of Malik Jackson. He is not merely another victim. He embodies the qualities of hope and courage, and serves as a reminder that even amidst the most dire of circumstances, the human spirit retains its capacity to endure. Your voice has the potential to amplify his, your reach can expand the dissemination of his message, and your actions can effect substantive change. You have the capacity to serve as his voice when he is rendered mute, his strength when he is enfeebled, his hope when despair threatens to overwhelm him, the impetus that propels him forward, and the very essence of his being. Petition elected officials. Demand an end to the pervasive issue of police brutality. Insist that those in positions of authority be held accountable for their actions. Seek justice for Malik Jackson and all those similarly aggrieved by this fundamentally flawed system. Furthermore, apprise Malik Jackson that efforts are being undertaken on his behalf, that his plight is not being ignored, and that his suffering will not be in vain. Identify yourself as his advocate, his ally, and his champion in the pursuit of justice, a resolute force opposing the forces of oppression. provide support to organizations dedicated to effecting change. Contributions of time, financial resources, and other forms of assistance are encouraged. Every contribution, regardless of its magnitude, has the potential to make a significant difference. Additionally, convey messages of support to Malik Jackson through these organizations. Ensure that he is aware that he is not isolated, that a community of concerned individuals is actively working to improve his circumstances and those of others similarly situated. Inform him that he is an integral part of a broader movement, a catalyst for change, and a collective voice demanding justice. Endeavor to acquire knowledge regarding the systemic issues of racism and police brutality and disseminate this knowledge to others. Initiate dialogue. Challenge prejudice. Dismantle the barriers of ignorance and indifference. Moreover, share Malik Jackson's narrative with others. Utilize his experiences as a tool for education, a catalyst for change, and a reminder of the urgent necessity for both justice and compassion. Allow his suffering to serve as a cautionary lesson, his pain as a call to action, and his resilience as a source of inspiration for all who become acquainted with his ordeal, a catalyst that ignites a revolution characterized by empathy and understanding. And under no circumstances should hope be abandoned. For as long as breath remains and compassion endures, the pursuit of justice will persist. Collectively, it is possible to forge a world in which all individuals are treated with dignity and respect, where safety from violence and oppression is assured, and where the ideal of equality is finally realized. And within such a world, Malik Jackson will not be remembered as a victim, but rather as a survivor, a symbol of enduring hope, and a testament to the indomitable power of the human spirit. This struggle transcends the plight of a single individual. It represents a collective endeavor to uphold the principles of justice and fairness. Malik Jackson awaits your support. Your words, your unwavering support, and your profound compassion constitute the lifeline he requires to persevere. Extend your support. Make your presence known. Demonstrate your concern. Affirm his connection to the broader human community. Allow your voice to serve as a beacon of hope, guiding him through the darkness. Ensure, through concrete actions, that his suffering has not been in vain. Let your collective strength be the force that elevates him from the depths of despair and propels him towards the light of justice. As the passage of time unfolded, the veracity of Malik Jackson's assertions and the justness of his cause became increasingly apparent. The initial skepticism that greeted his pronouncements gradually transformed into a growing recognition of the systemic injustices that had been perpetrated against him and countless others. The evidence, painstakingly compiled and meticulously presented, could not be denied. It constituted an irrefutable indictment of a system that had, for far too long, operated with impunity, shielded by a veil of indifference and a cloak of invincibility. This evidence, far from being confined to the specifics of his case, illuminated a pattern of misconduct, a deeply entrenched culture of abuse that demanded systemic overhaul. The revelations engendered a profound and transformative shift in the public consciousness. Individuals from all walks of life, transcending the boundaries of race, creed, and socioeconomic status, coalesced in a unified demonstration of solidarity. Their collective voice, a resounding chorus of outrage and indignation, reverberated throughout the corridors of power, demanding accountability and systemic reform. This groundswell of support was not merely a fleeting moment of social unrest. Rather, it represented a fundamental awakening, a recognition that the injustices suffered by Malik Jackson were symptomatic of a broader societal malaise. The movement that coalesced around his cause became a powerful force for change, a catalyst for dismantling the structures of oppression that had long been taken for granted. The wheels of justice, though often ponderously slow, began to turn with a renewed sense of urgency. Investigations were initiated, inquiries were conducted, and testimonies were heard. The individuals responsible for the atrocities committed against Malik Jackson and others of similar plight were, at long last, compelled to confront the consequences of their actions. This process was not without its challenges. Powerful forces sought to obstruct the path of justice, to protect the status quo, and to silence the voices of dissent. But the momentum of the movement, fueled by the unwavering determination of those who refused to be complicit in injustice, proved to be unstoppable. In the end, after a protracted and arduous struggle, justice prevailed. Officer Barnes and his accomplices were brought to trial, their crimes exposed to the full light of public scrutiny. The evidence against them was overwhelming, the testimony of their victims both heart-wrenching and irrefutable. The jury, moved by the weight of the evidence and the moral gravity of the situation, returned a verdict of guilty on all counts. The sentences handed down were severe, commensurate with the gravity of their offenses, sending a clear message that such abuses of power would no longer be tolerated. But the pursuit of justice extended far beyond the conviction of a few individuals. The systemic reforms demanded by the movement began to take shape. Policies were enacted to increase police accountability, to promote transparency, and to foster a culture of respect and de-escalation. Independent oversight boards were established to investigate allegations of misconduct, and community engagement initiatives were implemented to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the communities they served. Training programs were revamped to emphasize empathy, cultural sensitivity, and the importance of upholding the constitutional rights of all citizens. Malik Jackson, though forever scarred by his experiences, emerged from this crucible of suffering not as a broken man, but as a symbol of hope and resilience. His unwavering courage in the face of unimaginable adversity served as an inspiration to millions, a testament to the indomitable power of the human spirit to overcome even the most daunting of challenges. He became a catalyst for change, his voice a clarion call to dismantle the structures of oppression and build a more just and equitable society. He dedicated his life to advocating for the rights of the marginalized, to speaking truth to power, and to ensuring that others would not suffer the same injustices he had endured. His journey, though marked by immense pain and loss, ultimately culminated in a triumph of the human spirit. He found healing through his activism, transforming his personal tragedy into a force for positive change. He established a foundation dedicated to supporting victims of police brutality, providing them with legal aid, counseling services, and a platform to share their stories. He became a sought-after speaker, addressing audiences around the world, sharing his message of hope and resilience. He wrote a book, a powerful memoir that detailed his experiences and offered a searing critique of the criminal justice system. His words resonated with readers from all walks of life, inspiring them to become agents of change in their own communities. And in the end, Malik Jackson found peace. He built a life filled with purpose and meaning, surrounded by a loving family and a supportive community. He never forgot the friends he had lost, the dreams that had been shattered, but he learned to live with the pain, to transform it into a source of strength and motivation. He became a living testament to the fact that even in the darkest of times, hope can endure, and that even the most broken of spirits can be healed. The lessons gleaned from Malik Jackson's ordeal extend far beyond the specific circumstances of his case. They offer a profound and enduring wisdom that can be applied to the myriad challenges and tribulations that confront individuals in their daily lives. These are not mere platitudes, but hard-earned truths, forged in the crucible of suffering and refined by the fires of resilience. Firstly, the importance of perseverance in the face of adversity cannot be overstated. Malik Jackson's unwavering determination to survive, to endure, and to ultimately prevail even when confronted with seemingly insurmountable obstacles serves as a powerful reminder that the human spirit possesses an extraordinary capacity for resilience. When confronted with setbacks, failures, or moments of profound despair, one must endeavor to emulate Malik Jackson's example, refusing to surrender to the forces that seek to undermine one's resolve. This is not to say that the pain will not be real or the challenges insignificant. Rather, it is to emphasize that within each of us lies a wellspring of strength, a reserve of courage that can be tapped into when all seems lost. Secondly, the necessity of speaking truth to power is a recurring theme throughout Malik Jackson's narrative. His refusal to be silenced, his insistence on articulating the injustices he had suffered, even at great personal risk, underscores the vital importance of courageously confronting those who wield authority, particularly when such authority is abused or employed to perpetuate inequity. Individuals must be willing to challenge the status quo, to question prevailing norms, and to advocate for what is morally right, regardless of the potential consequences. This requires not only bravery, but also a deep commitment to one's principles, a willingness to stand alone if necessary, and the unwavering belief that one voice, when raised in the name of justice, can make a difference. Thirdly, the power of solidarity and collective action is vividly illustrated in the groundswell of support that coalesced around Malik Jackson's cause. The realization that one is not alone in their struggle, that there exists a community of like-minded individuals willing to stand in solidarity, can provide immeasurable strength and solace. It is incumbent upon individuals to cultivate and nurture such alliances, to forge bonds of empathy and mutual support, and to work collaboratively towards the attainment of shared goals. This underscores the importance of community, of building bridges with others who share our values, and of recognizing that our individual struggles are often interconnected, part of a larger pattern of injustice that can only be overcome through collective action. Fourthly, the transformative potential of hope, even in the most desperate of circumstances, should not be underestimated. Malik Jackson's ability to maintain a flicker of hope, even amidst the darkest of nights, served as a crucial lifeline, sustaining him through his most trying moments. Hope is not merely a passive sentiment. Rather, it is an active force, a catalyst that can propel individuals forward, providing them with the motivation and resilience to persevere. It is the belief that a better future is possible, even when the present seems bleak. And it is this belief that can empower us to take action, to fight for change, and to never give up on our dreams. Fifthly, the pursuit of justice is not a passive endeavor. It requires active engagement and unwavering commitment. Malik Jackson's story serves as a stark reminder that justice is not something that is bestowed upon individuals. Rather, it is something that must be fought for, tirelessly and relentlessly. Individuals must be willing to dedicate their time, their resources, and their energy to the pursuit of justice, both for themselves and for others, recognizing that the struggle for equality is an ongoing process that demands constant vigilance and unwavering dedication. This is a call to action, a recognition that we cannot be complacent in the face of injustice, that we must be willing to get involved, to speak out, and to work towards creating a more just and equitable world. In conclusion, the narrative of Malik Jackson serves as a potent reminder of the enduring power of the human spirit to overcome adversity, the vital importance of speaking truth to power, the transformative potential of solidarity and collective action, and the necessity of remaining steadfast in the pursuit of justice. May his story serve as an inspiration to all who strive to create a more just and equitable world, a world where the principles of equality and human dignity are not mere ideals, but lived realities for all. It is a story that speaks to the resilience of the human heart, the power of hope, and the enduring belief that even in the face of unimaginable suffering, the human spirit can triumph. We encourage you to share this story, to disseminate its message far and wide, and to engage in meaningful dialogue about the issues it raises. Your support is crucial in ensuring that Malik Jackson's suffering was not in vain, and that his legacy continues to inspire positive change. Please show your support by liking this story and leaving a comment. Subscribe to this channel to receive new stories and updates on our ongoing efforts to promote justice and equality. Let us, together, carry the torch of justice forward and strive to create a world where the injustices suffered by Malik Jackson are relegated to the annals of history, a world where all are treated with dignity and respect,